Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Japanese Chabru podcast. As you can see, we're gonna be talking about Devil May Cry, but I I know it will be wise to not do all 8 episodes in one go. So what's gonna happen with Devil May Cry as well as Moonrise? I'm probably gonna be doing one episode of Devil May Cry anime a week and two of Moonrise a week. So that's how I'm going to be covering those, even though I know they all episodes dropped for the season for them. So, Devil May Cry episode 1 starts off with we're in the middle of like this invasion. There's this group of people that are trying to get goods from a castle, and then this big bunny monster appears, who is most likely a demon, as we see, and he takes up this sword of swords, like the demon hunter sword or something, and he just starts slicing up people all over. And we pretty much learned through this episode that hell is a real place in this anime. So demons exist, and there's like a very small portion of demons that get through, and usually they're not very powerful, but some powerful demons do tend to get to be able to project their consciousness and be able to take over objects or stuffed animals, which in this case I think this bunny that appeared in this beginning sequence is a one of those higher demons that possess this doll and is using it to do carnage around here. And yeah, it doesn't take long for us to meet our actual protagonist, Dante, who is also a demon hunter, and he hunts demons. And one of his first ones that we see him in is an action sequence with him and this mother who has a baby, but the baby has been possessed or replaced, I guess, for by a demon in this case. And they lured her into a trap where she was gonna get eaten by demons, and Dante is the one that shows up and rescues her. And I love that Dante has like this very charismatic persona, and he's also kind of cringy because he's like, oh wait, I usually do one liners after I vanquish demons. And yeah, I thought that was really nice. Uh, and it was really interesting seeing Dante pull a gun into a baby, even though it's technically a demon. But to the mother, poor mother, she didn't realize what was happening. So it must be very jarring for a normal person to see a complete stranger just pull a gun on their child. And then we get the opening, I think, for a bit. The opening of it is pretty good. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the song. I enjoyed the visuals. Really great. And there as and we get the introduction of like the special force that deals with demons and all these uh otherworldly things that we find out. uh People think it's actually so because these demons are appearing in the news, so people are thinking maybe it's like some high-tech suit, but in reality we know that these are demons, and there's only this group that's within the government that's being funded to take care of them, or to understand how it works, and to understand about the demon and its portal and stuff. And they don't make it known that hell's a real place, because if hell's a real place, it would kind of alarm the masses and stuff. So very good on their part to keep it low profile. But one thing we do know is that this rabbit of sorts was made a special case to uh let them know that he in order to hunt him down, they're gonna need to find the hunter, and in this case, it's Dante that he's after for some reason, because there's this guy that hands out work to demon hunters, and he was pretty much spilled the beans that it was this rabbit was the one that hired him get this to get the sword, or like have the group that attacked the palace at the beginning of the episode, so this rabbit could get the sword. And we find out that this sword is like actually no a demon sword wielded by like a past demon lord of sorts. And this sword is the one that pretty much closed the gap, or like the portal between both worlds. And in order for the sword to reactivate, you need two pieces of amulet, which one half is with Dante and the other half is probably with the rabbit, as they're kind of saying of sorts throughout. They're kind of saying that the rabbit probably already has the other half. And Dante, luckily enough, meets the shape-shifting demon again, but he fails to get rid of him again. And yeah, pretty good first episode, I gotta say, for Devil May Cry anime. So for me, my overall thoughts on the story so far is, I know this is like a video game. I have not really played Devil May Cry video game, so for me this is like a first time experience with the franchise, and I'm really enjoying it because it does put into the forefront like what we know about hell could be true. And I think just the concept of having hell be a reality adds a lot of mystique and a lot of like potential for things to get really interesting. Like, how will the masses react if they find out hell is real? Would they continue being moral, or would they completely flip a switch and just do everything good even though they actually want to do bad? It's just really interesting premise for me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of other powers Dante has, as he did show like he had like superhuman strength in the first episode, and he's able to leap around, which doesn't really seem like human like. And I do, the only thing I do know, I think, is that Dante's like maybe a half demon. But overall, this first episode for Devil May Cry, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. And that'll be it on Devil May Cry episode 1. So Moonrise, another anime released by Netflix, and it wasn't just weekly, it was done in the whole anime just dropped. So 2 episodes I'm gonna be covering. In the first episode, we get like a look into what the current story is at the moment, which is just Jack and some of his crew just going around fighting robots, or like these android lookalikes. And it seems like the humans have superpowers, or like they have technology that allows them to wield superpower like abilities. And the action sequences, like seeing this was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I loved how the first episode was like the night it all began. So then we get thrust back into how everything started, which was really interesting, seeing the difference of how Jack was at the start of episode 1 and how he was before he became who he is now. So in this kind of like flashback to where everything began, we saw him get sent off somewhere, and one of his friends was being was pretty much killed, and send him off with a smile somewhere. And then next thing we know, it's Jack when he's older and probably in his early 20s. And you can see that Jack is rich now. Like he feels very much like a spoiled brat just from like introduction, the way he carries himself. He definitely feels like he feels entitled. And even some of his friends that were gathering up were kind of like, listen, there's a big conference that we need you to go to, and it's not negotiable. So when they do end up going, we find out it's actually from his adopted parents that, or like his adopted mom, was holding that conference because he is essentially the heir to one of the biggest and like the most luxurious companies there, like the Moon Development Plant Company or something like that. Um, and in that one is, I think this is where like we get a bit more of like explanation that there's like people that are up in the moon and people that are on Earth, and basically this project that his mother runs is making that connection a lot better and a lot quicker, so that there's less poverty, less discrimination, and less wars done for people on the moon, because it does seem like the people on the Earth are kind of like using resources of the moon, and people from the moon are being discriminated against with people on the Earth because the people on the Earth are living a lot better lives. But as the mother's like about to announce the son as the inheritor, he's nowhere to be seen. He just goes off and blows it off and is gambling with his money, or like his parents' money, whatever. And even then, like some of his friends are like, oh, he did it again. And even the father, who then we later see in the episode, is always like, damn, you know, Riz really appreciates you, which is one of his close friends in here. You should really take care of her and try not to make your mother too angry by doing all these disappearances. And as things are about to be celebrated, uh, blackout happens, and this is where we get like this kind of like reunion of sorts between Jack and his childhood friend Phil, who sent them off. But it seems like Phil is not like, uh he's in like cyberspace of sorts, and Jack is like actually alive. So it feels like pretty much there's a connection between the technologies that is allowing Jack and Phil to communicate this way. But before we can get really any answers, Phil like gets sent away, and Jack comes back into reality. And yeah, you just start seeing everything just start crushing down afterwards. Like the the tunnel that was connecting the orbits to the moon completely starts crashing down, and it's not looking, it doesn't it's not looking pretty. Like people are getting injured. There's like there's tidal waves hitting. It just caused a whole wreckage. And once again, Jack has to get saved by one of his friends, along with Riz that also gets saved with him. And then we get a bit of news of what's happening. And what's happening is somebody in the moon is declaring it independent from Earth and calls for a rise to defend the moon from the Earth, which he calls it Moonrise. So they dropped the name of the anime in there, and that's how episode 1 ends off. So from episode 1, what I really liked is how they pretty much gave us a good characterization of who Jack is, and what, or like at least a starting point to get us to not really like him. So when he does come around to get further developed later on the season, I think we're gonna end up really enjoying his character at the end, and also just giving us a nice motivation for Jack to end this uprising, right? Because of what happened in episode 1 with everything coming crashing down. Now him probably losing his parents, he's gonna be determined to stop what's happening. So enjoyed episode 1. I give it a 8 out of 10. And episode 2, we continue on with what happened with Jack and how he was rescued, and we learned of everything that happened the night prior. And we just see hospitals filled with like injured people along with Jack, of course, and it is just like the called like the fateful day now. So really great title drops. And I do like that because of everything that happened, Jack's first thought wasn't really like, oh, I should stay and rest up. His first thought was like, I'm gonna go back to my house, see if my parents are okay, see if anybody I know is still okay. Which when he gets there, he comes to a realization that he on Snoo is probably gone, because he tries calling them, tries getting in contact with them, and everything just drops. So we essentially have a rich boy from episode 1 come have a full crash down to, damn, you've had people around you before that were good friends of yours, and now you're practically left with nothing essentially. And now he's gonna have to like rebuild himself up, which I thought is really really good. And because Jack had that kind of interference with Phil in episode 1, the group, or like the army that Riz works for, kind of thinks Jack is a terrorist, or that he was involved in what happened in episode 1 with the orbit coming crashing down and everything. But when Jack gets imprisoned, and Riz has to go talk to him so that he comes clean with everything, we learned about the whole backstory he had with Phil. So now we have Jack and Phil, who are like have like this friendly rivalry going on in their early childhoods, when they were like probably like 6 or something like that. And there's there are other people that are with them, but in this place it feels very much like a refuge, and this is in the moon as well. So they are being Jack and Phil had like really high education there, and the meals were always like good. So you could say like this is where like it feels almost like this is where they send prodigies of the moon, and they made them feel safe from what's happening outward from the moon. And they always had like this time to be outside, and time when they had to go back inside. But we find out that not everything was all peachy, as there is like this room or this elevator that they technically are not allowed to go to. So you kind of have a sense that there could be something fishy going on with the person taking care of all these kids, which just happens to be the guy, Bob Skylum, who is the one that has declared the Moonrise in or the current timeline with Yak. And then we have a moment with Jack and Phil, as Phil is kind of having his doubts about this place, and also he's trying to like get Jack on his side, and he's over there. They're listening to music, and then they all of a sudden they get the place where they're at gets attacked, and pretty much this forces Phil and Jack to go to the forbidden area that they weren't supposed to to be able to go in, to be able to see. And when they come down the elevator into the whatever was down there, was you just see bodies piled everywhere. And then you see the reality that they were living in. All the kids that were their friends or that they thought were their friends, they were all actually created. They were like androids there. So Jack and Phil were like the only actual humans that were there. And we learned that they are actually humans because Jack's arm gets completely blown off. And as he's like laying there bloodied, Phil carries him to the pod, and Phil gives up his right arm to Jack, who then gets like this emergency surgical attachment to him. So Jack's arm is actually Phil's arm, and then we get the send off and how. So now we know the entire send off from episode 1 and what led it there and stuff. And then we have a 1-year time skip. So that's how Jacob joins the army after he gets the screening done and after they learn of his past. Now they're kind of like, he's still in trial bases where they're still going to keep an eye on him because they still don't fully trust him. But at least they're allowing him to work with this army. And episode ends off with us seeing Bob Skylum getting ready to do something. So like, this guy's going to be the main antagonist, it seems, and this show is looking really promising. So episode 2 of Moonrise, I give it another 8 out of 10. If I have to say some overall thoughts on it, the animation looks incredible. I like that it's done by the by Wit Studios, and also the creator of Full Metal Alchemist was involved in making it. So I think this has the potential to be a really great anime. The only downside is I think Netflix has done a poor job advertising it, and it really should be more properly advertised, at least from the 2 episodes that I've seen so far of it. And I'm really interested to see where these powers from the first episode came from. Like, what technology did they use, or how are they able to move like that? Definitely something I hope gets explored later, and we get a better understanding of how the power system works in the anime. So, but yeah, that's it. That's all I have on Moonrise. So, Windbreaker, episode 15. So, we get kind of like a slow walk up with Kaji about to go face off against the main leader of Kiel, which is really interesting how they did that. As Kaji's walking up, you start seeing the carnage that was unfolding with Bufferin, and all the people that are not like the top 5 strongest are just getting punished, getting the shit beat out of them. And I love that there is like some similarities between Kaji and the Kill leader, in which that they are both essentially like beasts within, and that's what the Kill leader is trying to get Kaji to understand as they're fighting. But also there's a big difference in how they view the fighting to be about. Whereas in the Kill leader will fight to and beat up people to instill fear, and that's how he will unite the Kill members. Whereas Kaji completely has the ideology of Bofran, where you protect people, and that's how you get them to join your own cause. So as everything's happening, the Sakura is finally looking fierce, and he is actually scaring the guy that he's supposed to fight, and the guy that was kind of pushing him back in the prior episode. And even the guy noticed, like, whoa, 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 this guy, he is not the same person I was fighting. What happened? And it's not only just Sakura. Like, we actually start seeing the other top five fighters of both frames start really gearing up, really excelling, really hitting their second wind of sorts. And I think that's also due to the fact that they have the second years helping them out, not so now they can actually focus on their opponent full force. And yeah, one of the first guys I want to talk about is the the wrestler guy from Buffering. He is having an interesting fight as he allowed the guy to really well at him, really hit him a bunch of times, and that's just because of his whole virtuous side of things, where he felt it was necessary for him to get hit because he allowed his own friends to get hurt, and also because he was weak. He was weak and lost a bit of steam. He was like, okay, I deserve that, but now we're gonna go into round two, and that's when him and his opponent are just going back and forth, like trading blow for blow, and it ends off spectacularly as he drop kicks him straight in the face, and that's how he wins. Which I love that fight for his own ideology, of, yes, I'm gonna let you hit me, but I'm gonna hit you back afterwards, and that's how I'm gonna shine, and that's how he decided to make himself stronger to basically be able to protect his friends. Like, if he's strong enough to tank hits, he's strong enough to help out his friends. So I like how that ideology kind of goes. And then we have the pink hair guy. He we can finally see him start to actually get serious, because he, for the first time in the show, he gets the jacket and he actually puts it over his shoulders instead of like on his forearms. So we see that, and with like one hit, he's able to basically take the guy out because he hits him right on the chin, and that's like a technique that just completely like uh discombobulates you and makes you lose balance. And even though he didn't like the fact that he was gonna have to start wailing at him or take him out when he can't fight, he was like, if I don't do it, then you're surely gonna come back and be a nuisance. So he did that. And then after that one, we get the Sakura finally is back in the fray, and he's helping others finally, as well as with him and the second years. They really turned the tides around, and then we get Suo, who is absolutely furious with what happened to Nire, to the point where Suo is actually using his martial arts to actually hurt people. Which, if if you recall, in the first season, the only time we've really seen him use martial arts was for self-defense, and even then he didn't really go to hit people, at least not at not like he was trying, not like he did to this guy, which with one kick he kind of takes him out, and he was about to start wailing at him to like take his frustrations out, until like Sakura came in. And when Sakura came in to stop them, it was kind of like a good moment between the two, because in that moment Suo realized, oh, Sakura just feels just as pathetic as I do for allowing what happened to Nire happen, and also realizing that Sakura's responsibility has also caused him to feel in this way, because if he feels responsible, Sakura feels even more responsible because he is the great captain. And yeah, this is where Suo kind of gets more respect for Sakura. He's like, yeah, I don't think I'll ever be able to match you. So I do love their little dynamic that's growing, especially because he is kind of like one of Sakura's right hand mans. So, and then we have the main fight that I'll talk about with Kaji and the leader, where we get an understanding, or a better understanding of Kaji, I should say, where the leader knew that Kaji was a beast within, where Kaji really was always holding back, because as we know, Kaji, when he unleashes the beast within him, or when he lets his emotions or his anger take over, he has really no self-control of what happens afterwards, to the point where he even blanks out what happens, and when he comes around, it's just bodies laying everywhere each time. So in that we get to see that Kaji really wants to be normal, wants to not feel like a monster. And we get that because the other second year that really took him in, he showed him a way of, yes, you are strong, and yes, you can protect people, and you don't have to let this beast out. So the Kaji and the kill leader continue fighting, and then Kaji eventually like lets a bit of the beast out, or like at least he gets more serious after taking a couple blows, and then Kaji just starts really like wailing at him, and the guy passes out at like 9 hits. And so Kaji's like, damn, I promised Sakura 10, but you weren't even sturdy enough to handle that much. So after all the fights are clear, after everybody's taken care of, and everybody goes to check on Nagato and Isa, and they really let him talk for a bit, and Nagato's like, damn, why would you guys do this for me? I'm a nobody. And you can really feel that Nagato feels alone, and he feels unworthy of being safe, and he feels unworthy of his friendships. And that's when Sakura kind of steps in, like, listen, you're saying all this, but you won't even look him in the eye. And this is where we get like a little growth of Sakura, because in the first episode of season 1, he wasn't able to look people in the eye when he said things. He was the one that was he was Nagato, but unlike Nagato, he was strong enough to do what Nagato couldn't do. But this growth for Sakura is amazing. He is able to talk to people, be able to now look at people in the eye, be able to tell them with conviction, and he lets Naruto know this is what you need to do. And he's like, I didn't even do this for you. I didn't even do this for him. I did it for the girl that was crying for you. Was crying for your friendship because you're always getting injured. It's like, so instead of looking away, what you need to do is look forward and look people in the eye. And that's how like this episode ends. And yeah, overall thoughts on this one. The fighting animation, the choreography, excellent. Windbreaker always has excellent choreography and excellent fighting. I feel like some of the stronger points of the episode were obviously the character developments, the really peeling layers from Kaji, really peeling layers from Sakura, and really showing the growth that Sakura has had from season 1 to now so far, and also seeing a different side of Sue that we weren't really aware existed. So really, really, really great. Oh yeah, and then there was the other fight with the other guy that I forgot to mention. He was really strong with the quick guy. Really simple. It's just once again Sakura influence. He really dislikes people that are agile like Sakura because it reminds him of Sakura. So yeah, he took care of that in like 2 hits. So not much of a fight. Uh, but yeah, Windbreaker episode, 10 out of 10 for me. That's all I have on it. The Apothecary Diaries, episode 238. So we get the Mao Mao in this episode having a bit more understanding, or like trying to understand the reality she now has to live with, the fact that she knows a secret about Shinji that nobody else knows, which is that unlike most eunuch, his body, he still has all his body parts. And this time around, when Shinji goes and looks for her, he wasn't at all like trying to avoid saying her name. Like this time he went in there and he was like, listen, I need you to let me have Mao Mao. And he's like, he even points to it like, yeah, this Mao Mao. And that was kind of jarring. That was kind of jarring to the lady in waiting, because Shinji has always had like not wanting to show like a explicit interest in Mao Mao, but this time he was very explicit about his interest in her, and also like letting, kind of like warning her like, yes, I need her, but don't worry, she's gonna not say anything about what's going on, because he doesn't want her to look into the Licious bath, which we know from the prior episode she feels is haunted. So once we get there, we get them talking, and we get the former lady in waiting from Lishu appearing, and you can tell she does not like the Lishu's current lady in waiting, because she points out that maybe she's not doing the proper job as one, and you can really tell that there's kind of like a toxic environment with Lishu and her palace, where possibly the lady in waitings are not necessarily looking for her best interest. And for possibly you could make an argument that during this time she was probably the one that was trying to pull a prank on Lishu, until of course we learned later on what was happening. So we have Lishu showing him around the place, and we find Mama and Shinji find out there's actually rotten wood and mold all over the place. So instead of like really getting it fixed, the other lady in waiting just kind of like covered it with a bunch of furniture. And because Mama was smart enough, she realized that the bath from which Lishu has water running under the wood, and that's probably causing some of the mold from the place. And also because there's cracks everywhere, there's steam rising up as the water is like steaming hot when she goes for a bathe. And so she puts it all together after Lishu shows her this gift from her mother, which kind of is the one that's reflecting the ghost that she's seeing, because that mirror, when you put light in it, it reflects her mother. So when it reflects her mother and the steam from the bath comes rushing in, that's how she thought she saw the ghost. As the light would shine her mother's face, and it would look like there's a ghost because of the steam. Pretty interesting way to go about it. And then after they figured it all out, the former lady in waiting comes in again, and it's kind of like bullying Lishu by taking her mirror and being like, this is ugly, you need to get rid of it, you're a higher ranking one concubine, you need finer things than just this old mirror. But of course, because that one has sentimental value, Lishu, for like the first time we see, takes initiative and really lunges at her and grabs her mirror, which then Shinji kind of has to get in between this former lady in waiting and Lishu, as he kind of gives her a nice scolding, because first of all, she has this hairpin in her hair, and it's technically disrespectful for a former lady in waiting to have, as it represents kind of like higher status, which she no longer really has. And of course, after all that happens, then we start learning a bit more about the new guy that came in, the new eunuch. And Mamo learns about what the procedure with the eunuchs and stuff, because it seems that all the eunuchs that arrive to the palace always have to undergo this procedure, and once they leave the palace, they undergo another procedure. So then we really get into a bit more political side, where Shinji and his the guy that's always with him start talking about Mamo's father and how he is such a wild card, because he has no real allegiance anywhere. So it feels like they have to play it a bit safer, because they don't know which side he's going to be on, and whether he sides with them could mean like one of their greatest assets. But if he sides with not if he doesn't side with them, it could be really bad for them. So Shinji at this point is like, damn, I really want to tell Mamo. I really he wants to tell Mamo about him being a prince and all that, and he also wants to her to be on her side, but also fears how her father will respond. So yeah, then the episode ends off with Shaolin, one of Mamo's friends, completely destroying a ice sculpture that was being brought into the palace. Really interesting, really dramatic way to end the episode. So yeah, overall thoughts on this episode of the Apothecary Diaries. I'm really enjoying kind of this mind game that Mamo's playing with Shinji. How it's always Mamo wants nothing to do with Shinji, but also realizes maybe she's far too deep and knows too much, to the point where at one point Shinji's gonna have to really come forward and really get her on his side for whatever he is planning to do. And I think that's going to be glorious once they're finally teaming up together and on the same side. So, and also, I'm interested to learn more about, like, because there's part of the first half that we still don't know about, who is providing this knowledge of like the abortion stuff, which is still an ongoing thing, especially now considering that we know almost all the high-ranking concubines have babies. So just really interesting things going on in the background that I'm excited to look forward to more. But overall, a nice 8 out of 10 for the Apothecary Diaries for me. Fire Force episode 2 from season 3. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. So it starts off with Shinra being in the Adola Link dimension, and he's talking to Burns, who is letting them know that they are planning to put the firebug on Captain Obi. So now it's becoming dire that Shinra and Company 8 have to really get going and save Captain Obi, which really good way to like raise the stakes by giving us that a very like raising the stakes by telling us something's gonna happen soon, and then having our heroes have to proceed as fast as possible. So then we get hit with the Obi flashback, and this is how Obi and the lieutenant kind of started Company 8 from nothing, and what they were really trying to do. And even though they wanted to investigate and try to save the world from the infernos and stuff, they actually did realize that, listen, what we're doing in investigating all our the fire companies is probably going to get us in a lot of trouble with a lot of them, and some of them are probably going to even retaliate against us. And if you really mean it, then you know you might want to leave now. And then the lieutenant was like, nope. And even the lieutenant's like, listen, I don't even got a girlfriend, so like I'm actually the perfect man for the job, because they got not, even if we get into trouble with all the other companies, I it doesn't really matter, because at any point I could die, and me, that's why I won't ever have a girlfriend. So that's really that was really nice, seeing how they started from the bottom and now seeing how they are now. Uh, but afterwards, we get a cut to what Obi's doing in prison and how he's handling being in prison. And this man is just jacked already, and he's in prison and he's still working out. Like, Obi's literally built different than most people, and he pretty much knows that they're keeping him there as an example, but he's also trying not to uh, let that get to him, as because he's working out, he's keeping his mind stable. And he's also kind of joking with him, like, hey, give me some water, or I will dehydrate from all this working out that I'm doing here. And we then get a cut back to the news reporting of Captain Obi's capture, and how the news is really portraying that Captain Obi was kidnapped Shinra against his will. And it was really nasty how they manipulated the public by spreading this false propaganda about Obi, who to them turned on the Soul Temple, and basically turned his back on the fire companies. Which then I love getting a cut to Hina and Benimaru, who both are like, nah, Obi wouldn't do that. And that's when they realized, listen, he's being made an example out of, and we might get in trouble for aligning ourselves with him in the past. So now we have Benimaru and Hina kind of like preparing mentally for the time when they're probably going to have to side with Company 8 and be labeled as traitors themselves. Which then we get a cut back to, we then I shouldn't say cut back to it. I said then we meet once again one of my favorite characters of the show, Joker. Joker finally shows up and meets Company 8 as his friend, or like the genius that was with the Company 8, that didn't tell Obi whether he was in alliance with them or an enemy with them. And I finally let them know, listen, me and the Joker are kind of like teammates, and we don't align with neither good nor bad. But we are kind of like in the dark side of things, where we're not constantly viewed by the Soul Temple. So if you want, we can show you how to move in the shadows as you are in the light. And we get this nice shot of a line being split in the middle, where Company 8 is in the light, and Joker and this other guy are in the shadow or the darkness. So this is pretty much the imaginary line of, once you cross this, there's no more going back. You can never be part of the light again. You have to always constantly be moving in darkness like us. So they take them to their hideout, and pretty much this is where they're kind of like, they're base of operations where they're planning what they're gonna do and how they're gonna rescue Captain Obi. And luckily enough, the Joker kind of knows where Captain Obi is located, and they can pretty much him and Shinra are pretty much gonna go there first, and then everybody's gonna join them as kind of like backup. And Burns, we get another nice talk with Burns and one of the white clad members there, who believes who we get now, like a reason why Burns kind of turned on the Company 8, in which he feels like he saw the actual god, and he saw something that was worth following, and that's why he kind of turned against the Company 8 and all the other fire companies. So we have Shinra and Joker kind of moving along to save Captain Obi first, and I love that this is kind of like their first team up, which we were kind of teased at with the first season, where Joker was letting them know, hey, at one point me and you are gonna be seeing eye to eye, and we're gonna team up actually. And and now that they're kind of going towards Obi, Joker lets him know, like, listen, the Soul Temple and all those other, and the Megaliast, they all want to snuff out everybody that's the light, so that they can actually engulf in that, so that they can actually engulf the world in darkness. And he lets them know, listen, there's only, what they're prophesying is a false light that I can't get with, but there are those who move in the darkness like me do know who exactly is the light, and that's Captain Obi and you. And then they kind of joke around how, like, Shinra is probably getting a lot more stronger, so he feels like he can take on Captain Burns, and then he can take on a lot of other people all at once. And Joker's like, okay, but what about Benimaru? And he's like, yeah, not a chance. So, like, Benimaru is just built different. Even Shinra, with his hysterical strength that he gained from the last season, he still feels like Captain Benimaru is way above his league. And the final shot is just Shinra and Joker arriving to supposedly where Obi is, and we now have the dark hero, who is the Joker, and the light hero, who is Shinra, finally working together under the same cause. Really great stuff. My thoughts on this episode, though. I love the world building. I love how we're still building this world, still building a lot of the plot points happening, connecting a lot of the dots that were a lot of the questions that we had in previous seasons, and really just getting the reintroduction of the Joker was so good for me. I'm even more excited to see what happens moving forward, seeing a lot more of the action happening, because I feel like it's going to be a lot of action moving forward, with a lot more world building as well. But this Fire Force episode, I'm giving a nice 9 out of 10. So, the Kowloon Generic Romance episode 2, it's really getting really interesting. This romance anime, or whatever it is, it's getting really interesting now. So this episode starts off kind of with, like, us seeing the picture more closely and seeing that Reiko, or Kujirai was like, that was actually a picture of her, and maybe getting more answers this episode, with a lot more questions also this episode. Starting off, Kujirai gets a call from one of her friends that some noisy neighbor is, like, around making too much noise. So she, because of her job, is kind of checking a lot of the tenants, and that she goes in there to check out, only to find out that this person or stranger just is crazy and obsessed with some dolls. She makes a lot of dolls. and that's her job. And she kind of gets close to this person, and instead of like really, which it's really interesting seeing how open she is with strangers. But given that we sort of get a nice flashback to supposedly her past, it makes sense. Uh, she shows her the picture or the photo, and she lets her know that this was her, or she tells her that this was probably her, but she just realized that she has no real memory of when it was taken or any memory of her past before. So now we're getting into a question of like, what happened if this was actually her and it's her in the picture? How did she lose her memory? What could have probably caused her to lose her memory? Or was there something traumatic that happened that kind of like made her forget her memories? Just little interesting things about it. And then we get a bit of Kudo's memories when he was first starting out and how he met Reiko or Kujirai back then, and how she was the one that showed him all the stuff that he's now showing Kujirai now that she doesn't have her memories. He's kind of trying to make her relive those memories and maybe get her back in a way. But yeah, the whole point of that was just letting us know that Kujirai was the one that told him about how this town is very nostalgic, and the reason why she can't get away with it from this town is that this town is full of love, because the way she views it is anything that's nostalgic can be interpreted as love. So everything that we know that Kudo loves about this town was really her showing him that. And now that she doesn't have her memories, he's the one that's trying to get her to fall back in love with the town that she made him fall in love with. So yeah, really great stuff. And one of the things that I really found interesting is that they made a sense of like, all right, but wouldn't it be painful if you love to learn something and then one day it was all gone? So I feel like that's very straightforward. That's really coming from Kudo's point of view, where he learned to fall in love with Kujirai, or like the former Kujirai, and now that Kujirai is no longer there. So now he's having to live on knowing that, man, she is the one I fell in love with is gone. And this, even though this is still her, it's not she doesn't have the same personality I fell in love with, the same memories I fell in love with, the same nostalgic feeling I fell in love with. And yeah, one of the things I found really interesting though is that in Kudo's flashback, the Kujirai had a different voice actor, so almost making it feel like this is a completely different person. And also there was the whole thing with the person that Kujirai met at the beginning of the episode, having her whole appearance change through getting it worked on. And that could also be another possibility, where maybe the Kujirai we know now had her entire body changed to mimic her, but in doing that, it caused her to lose her memories, or they made it so that she lost her memories. Just things I'm interested to find out what's really going on with this town and how things keep happening. Yeah, we get into a little bit of Kujirai and how she wants to know about the picture, but also she's afraid to ask Kudo about the picture, because what they have is something interesting, or like she doesn't want Kudo to feel like she crossed a line by like taking the photo, and maybe he didn't want her to see, so she kind of wants him to bring it up, which might happen, might not. And also, as we're progressing and seeing her hang out with her new friend, they try to go back to the bar where she met Gwen, one of Kudo's the host that was in that bar, and apparently he was removed from everything. Like even Kudo was looking for him, and he couldn't find him anywhere. So now we have possibly um he has gone missing, or he was made to go missing, and we need to find out what really happened. And in all, Kujirai gets this like idea to like put piercings on, just like the former Kujirai did, and in doing so, Kudo was like being very spiteful towards her and telling her like, you shouldn't be doing that. Um, but you can really see that when Kudo saw Kujirai with the earrings, it kind of he had a mixed emotions, almost like he saw his love for the first time, but also furious because maybe she is trying to mimic her and it's not really the one he loves. So he then later apologizes about it and realized, like, that was wrong of me. I was having a bad day and I took it out on you. So to make it up, of course, Kudo is the one that has to offer to buy food, and they, instead of going to their regular place, they go to this new place that has chicken in it, or like lime chicken, which Kujirai found about with her new friend, and then the episode kind of like ends off with Kujirai and her friend going to do this surgery of sorts, because apparently the generic Terra has people that live in there can get free healthcare, can get anything really for free. And the guy that operates it kind of takes an interest in Kujirai after he sees her with lipstick and realized and like rubs it off. But it just kind of, and also he takes an interest because he she tells him that she lost her memories, and he is looking very much like a psycho at the end as he rubs the lipstick she put on him. But overall, I'm really enjoying this anime. Like, I think it gives a lot to think about. It gives a lot to look forward to. Like, there's the stuff with generic Terra that's not really explained, that's still being built in the background, and there's this guy from the that wasn't kind of like that was introduced this episode that we found out about in the episode 1, that he's behind the whole generic Terra. So, and then there's the whole thing with Kudo and Kujirai and their past. Is it just fake memories? Is it an actual thing of the past? Is Kujirai even Kujirai, or is that somebody that had a procedure done that's now Kujirai? Just quite a lot of questions to look forward to, and quite a lot of things I want to answer to. But I am really enjoying this anime, and I'm giving episode 2 a 8 out of 10, and that's it on that one. So, Yaiba Samurai Legend episode 2. It really, I really gotta say, I really am enjoying this anime. I love how both characters are being introduced early on. Like, our two main ones, our main, I guess, almost antagonist, or our main rival of the show, and also our main character Yaiba. How they're kind of going hand in hand and progressing them together. This episode starts off seeing how Onimaru, our rival, starts how he starts his day, and also like a little background of how he has never lost any major competition. He's always won, and that's how he's able to, and somehow he's able to live alone. And now that Jaiba has found out that how strong Onimaru actually is, he constantly wants to fight him, but Onimaru just always refuses to duel him because obviously in their first exchange, Onimaru got the better of him, and he felt Jaiba was unworthy, and also just given the fact that he's won every competition, also making him a bit arrogant, whereas Jaiba, who's lost once to Onimaru, now is like looking to use him as a way to get stronger. So if he beats him, he gets stronger, and but Onimaru sees that if he as Jaiba just getting down to Jaiba's level is wasting his time. But in continuing to refuse him, Jaiba starts becoming really active on provoking Onimaru to fight him. So he sets up a trap where Onimaru has to collect all his gear, and afterwards Onimaru just feels humiliated, and Jaiba really makes a fool out of him. A nice showing to everybody, and then it pretty much leads to Onimaru wanting to now get to Jaiba, get that humiliation, and get his get back, really. So Jaiba goes to go see Onimaru, and Onimaru goes to go see Jaiba, and both of them make it to their respective places, but at separate with them not being there. So then they have to come back and try to find each other again. Which, when Onimaru gets back to his place, he sees that his birds that he was feeding at the beginning of the episode were attacked by Jaiba's big vulture bird, and then when Jaiba gets back to his place, he sees that his tiger friend gets beat up. So now he's pissed that Onimaru mistreated his friend, and Onimaru's pissed that Jaiba mistreated his pigeon in his home. So then when they finally meet, they start clashing with one another, and yeah, I won't lie, like them just clashing with wooden swords, just terrorizing town was like so nice, so well choreographed, and it really showed the different fighting styles that Onimaru and Jaiba had as they're facing off all over town. You see Jaiba try to beat Onimaru by any means, which is like through kicking, through biting, and through throwing objects at him. And Onimaru, meanwhile, was trying to fight Jaiba in a proper way with only the wooden sword, and that's really what caused him to lose, as Yaiba was able to use his surroundings and use these dirty tactics against him to actually get the better of him and get the drop on him, and he ends up beating him. But because he beat him unfairly and with dirty tricks, the grandma that has Jaiba, the Tsuken Jaiba in the dojo, kind of lets him know, hey, listen, you only beat him because you were being dirty, but you can't really call that a victory until you actually beat him properly and in a fair, square fight. And that's when Jaiba was like, okay, well, next time I face him, I'm gonna face him fair and square, and you'll see that I'll beat him then too. And that gets him to get his own training up, where he's blindfolding himself anywhere to increase his Jin gun, which that's kind of like the essence of how he's able to tell or sense other people's presence, which he was kind of he hasn't quite mastered that, because the grandma points out that he's just getting a feeling for it and not necessarily fully mastered it yet. But by doing this, he will be able to master it more and be more proficient in it. And as Jaiba's doing his own training, we have Onimaru who's doing his own training, but as he's doing his own training, he's always having Jaiba in the mind with how he ridiculed him, bit him, and all this other stuff. And he's not having a good day. He even at one point he just swings at this at the stone, which then like breaks and opens up this stairs going down his home, which he never realized was there. And as he's going down there, as you go down these hidden stairs, there's this sword that was under there, which is the sword of the wind god. And Onimaru, of course, being who he is, being wanting to get stronger, wanting to be able to beat Jaiba at any cost, he decides that he should grab the sword. And just by grasping the sword, you start actually seeing Onimaru gain this strength. And as he's gaining strength, he starts getting horns. So after he finally lifts the sword up, he becomes or turns kind of into like a demon or Oni at the end. And meanwhile, Jaiba's just at his home practicing with his tiger and his vulture, being blindfolded at the rooftop. Really interesting ways to gain power. Like one is trying to gain power like very quickly, and one's just slowly gaining power, at least in this episode. So our overall thoughts on Jaiba. Great anime, great animation with studios killing it. Like I said earlier, I love being able to see both our main two rivals grow with one another at the same time. Be able to have both perspectives, one of Onimaru and one of Jaiba, and seeing how they're both how their dynamic is allowing each other to get stronger as the story progresses. And now that Onimaru gets sword, I'm sure like at some point Jaiba's gonna have something that is gonna be able to match his. And it's and I've seen some of the previews. I see that they get into a fight, so I'm interested to see if Jaiba gets a defeat and then he starts searching for his own power up. But yeah, this episode was great. I'm rating it a 9 out of 10, but that's about it on Jaiba the Samurai Legend. So, and I think it's gonna be it. So, guys that are watching on YouTube, if you like any of the anime I discussed or jabbed about today, just leave me a like, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the noti bell, and if you want to catch these episodes a few days earlier, I stream all the discussions over on Twitch, and then I pass them over to YouTube in the following days. So follow the Twitch, it's going to be in the description below. But until next time, bye.